This is Mikhail Tank, and this is the Archetypal Mosaic. Unlike most of my shows where I have a guest, in this one I'll be discussing something that I adore and sharing it with the public because it's a very special item and a part of history that I adore. So this is the Magatama, part of the three sacred treasures of Japanese Imperial regalia. Magatama is something that I collect. I actually have a few pieces on my artist eBay, which you can get through my website, mikhailtank.com. And I was in Japan to do a solo show back in 2009 called Soul Photography, and it was an exquisite experience. And the Magatama is a very unique item. It's basically about an inch or slightly longer than an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter. Usually, they do come larger. I had a piece from Itaagawa jadeite, from a jade from Japan, which is kind of a greenish blue. Can be green white, can be green. It's really beautiful. Previously, and it was much larger. It looks a little bit like an animal's tooth originally. It also looks like half of a yin yang, and it also looks like a fetus and a comma from the in terms of the grammar. It's a very powerful element. It can be made, as I mentioned, from jadeite. It can be made from many other quality crystals and stones which contain different elements of power and magic. I prefer two stones, which is jadeite. Of course, jade comes, there's only two real jades. There's a lot of fake jades, but the two real jades are nephrite and jadeite. I do prefer either the jadeite ones or the amethyst ones, which of course is a purple crystal. Also ametrine, which is a natural mixture from Bolivia mostly, of ametrine and citrine while it gets naturally heated by the earth. There's also fake ametrine, which is heated by man. Which of course I don't like. So back to the Magatama. A lot of really interesting things about this. So the story goes that a long, long time ago, what's so beautiful about the history is the fact that it starts with a myth and it turns into nonfiction. And it's still revered and appreciated to this day to such a degree that the Magatama is part of the three imperial precious items. The other two are the sword, and the mirror. So the mirror is most likely bronze, and the sword is most likely made of iron. The Magatama may or may not be originally one or several. Some historians say that it's red in color, so it could be a carnelian or a red agate. And many think that it's jadeite, a dark green version of the jade from Japan, which is called Itaagawa. My pronunciations, of course, are not perfect on this because I am from Russia, which is neighboring to Japan in a way. Here's what's really super interesting is that originally there was a goddess by the name of Amaterasu who hid herself in a cave, and the Magatama was used to open and bring her out so that light could enter the world. The sun, of course, as we see the symbol of Nippon, Japan, the people of the sun. It's all very related in terms of light and darkness, which of course is very relevant to my Dark Soul Theater and the light that comes from art, from my soul, which is pure light. So it's also in the Shinto belief system, the Magatama is like a hook, And not only is it an imperial protection of the emperor, of the body of the emperor, but also it charms in the positive relatives of the past, the spirits, to protect, and removes the negative ghosts, the ones that don't have any purpose. There's a lot of depth there. The other thing that's really interesting is that the three sacred items, the treasures, have been passed down from generation to generation during, the emperor, the new emperor, kind of ceremonies. And once those three things are given in two boxes, the boxes are kind of covered with a red, beautiful, kind of embroidered sheet, a thick sheet, and tied with a purple ribbon of some sort, or rope of some sort. Originally, the Magatama is said to have been covered in a blue type of silk, and then wrapped in purple rope. So blue, red, and purple are the colors of the protection of these elements. So once these three things are given within two boxes, so the sword is by itself, and the mirror and the jewel may be in one box, they're handed to the new emperor in a ceremony in front of the chrysanthemum throne. And of course, in Japanese culture, the chrysanthemum is a very, perhaps it's the symbol of the imperial family. It also has a lot of significance. The petals, I believe there's 16 petals, and I had a chance to be in the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, and it was an exquisite experience, really, really, really special. So when those things are gifted to the new emperor, the emperor can never see them, the actual three items. So of course, some people will say, well, how do you know there's anything in the box? Or it hasn't been sold or changed. But the point is that these three things, one is bronze, possibly, one is iron, one is an agate or a jade. Technically, none of them were, the materials are not that expensive. The point is the historical value. The point is the magical value, the perceived value, the intrinsic value, the spiritual value, things which don't have a price. They're much rarer, much more expensive than diamonds, alexandrites, or anything, or the value of such things. And the fact that there's an honor system in Japan, which of course is so beautiful. I remember being on a train, and I remember seeing flight attendants there. This is all related. And somebody said, one of the flight attendants on the train said, their friend left a wallet on the seat of the train, and it was returned to that person, so there's a huge honor system in that culture, which many people may not, be accustomed to in where they live. So that plays a big part in this ceremony. The fact that they cannot see these three items, they can never open them, but they have the possession of them, means that they officially become the emperor. It's kind of like the rite of passage. And then also, the emperor at the time of the Second World War stated that one of the reasons that Japan surrendered was to protect these three jewels. They're so important that any kind of invasion into the shrines where they are preserved, and also in the Imperial Palace where they are preserved, would basically destroy the spiritual element of Japan, which no war is as important as this, as keeping this tradition. A few more things about this. So there's many what I learned is that there's many tamas, so they're kind of like beads, and they come in all shapes, and they all have different prefixes. Maga, it just kind of stands for the term of curved. And there's also the belief system that a similar jewel was used in Korea in and around the same time that Magatamas became first, available in Japan. Of course, history is unclear about who was first. Magatamas are found in and near grave sites of warriors and kings as a form of protection into the other world. Very similar to the way the Egyptians used to do things, but of course not with Magatamas, with scarabs and such. And so, of course, it depends on who you ask. Some will say, of course, it started in Korea, and many others will say, of course, it started in Japan. Of course, I can't answer the question because, I wasn't there at the time, but from historical records and everything, it appears that it is more utilized and more used in both mythology and reality in Japan than in Korea. So the other few things that are really interesting about this is the curvature. So I would say that there's three main shapes, and of course there are many shapes because it is an artistic item. But you will see that unlike the reproductions which are available in neighboring countries, which look very kind of easy to make. They look almost like triangles or just like a simple tooth in the animal's tooth, in the sense that a fang, where it just becomes more of a sharp point. And they're inaccurate, and also they are, inexpensive reproductions, and sometimes not even made from real crystals or jadeite, which basically have no value whatsoever in any sense. But when you're thinking about the actual ones produced, in Japan and sold and are given at the shrines, the Shinto ones specifically, you would see a very, very artistic and very balanced look to them. The top and the bottom of them, even though the top, of course, is fuller, like a number 9, and the bottom is smaller, there's a very strong proportion there in terms of the energy balance. When you look at it, you can see that there's a flow and there's a tremendous balance there, as opposed to like the reproduction where the energy just falls through the tail and goes underneath, and basically it doesn't hold anything within itself. And so the ones that I've collected usually come in 3 different shapes, and as I mentioned, there are many more, but these are the 3 most used that I've seen. One of them, as I mentioned, looks just like half of a yin yang, so it looks like a number 9. The other one is an elongated shape, so it looks almost the same size of the top and the bottom, and there's a curvature to it. Those are very beautiful. I actually gifted one of those to somebody I really loved a while back, and this was a very beautiful see-through amethyst. Currently I'm wearing a naturally dark amethyst, and an amethyst, the darker it is, the more quality it is, as long as it's natural. There are, of course, super, super dark ones which you can't see anything, and they may just come from like the corner piece or whatever. But the really beautiful dark ones where you can see through them with the light, those are the best. And of course, the best amethysts, not partial, but true, do come from Siberia and Russia, where I'm from. And Siberia is really close to Japan, of course, there's water in between. But the thing is that the amethysts from Siberia are really hard to find. So usually the better amethysts come from Bolivia or Uruguay. And of course there's many that come from Brazil, which are really good too. Most of the amethysts that you see come from So the amethyst that I gifted to someone I really loved a few years back and was taken with such gratitude was an elongated one that does not look like a 9. It looks more like just a very, like maybe a half, like a semicircle, let's put it that way. Also, the Magatama represents the moon, the power of the moon, the light of the moon, the darkness of the moon. Again, that goes back to the original myth. And the myth continues in the sense that once Amaterasu, the goddess, kind of got out of the cave or shone light back into the world, her, next of kin became the first emperor of Japan. And from that point on, it's almost like the imperial line is connected to, the goddess and the moon. And that this item, the Magatama, connects the myth to the reality and makes the entire lineage, the people of the sun, and also kind of godly, but not gods, kind of just blessed by the gods or from the godly realm. Of course, again, the concept of mythology and reality merging and blessing a people, and also the value that's put on these 3 imperial regalia items and how it's respected to this day, the value of it. And even a war can't, mess with these things. And even the emperors cannot see them. It tells you how exquisite that history is. And for me personally, this is where I'll kind of end the show. When I saw the Magatama first, I was drawn to it. And it's not about, a superficial, let me enjoy this other culture because it's different. It's not about that for me. It's a very spiritual thing. And when I'm drawn to something, whether it's from my 2 cultures originally or whether it's from, wherever it is, there's a much deeper element to it. In the Shinto tradition, which I really love, the Shinto tradition, it's all about the seasons. It's all about, nature, and it's all about, your relatives kind of being, feeding their spirits to protect your future. It's a mutual kind of relationship. I personally believe in most of that just naturally, even before I went to Japan, even before I was aware of Shintoism. It's just like my natural belief system. So when I first saw the Magatama, I was really, really drawn in. I was like, this is exquisitely beautiful, and really powerful, and really small, but it held a lot of energy. And so when I got the first one, it felt so right, wearing it and stuff. And I could feel that it kind of it just did certain things for me, okay, which different stones kind of react to your spiritual, I can't really explain this. People who get it, get it. People who don't just won't. There'll be people like, oh my God, stones, who cares? It's like, yeah, you don't get it. And then there's people who'll be like, oh my God, that stone really, polishes up my energy. It calms me. It focuses me. It does a different thing. Gives me different dreams, right? So it's interesting also. This is something very personal that I'm sharing. But again, some people will understand. Other people will disregard. And it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that, like, different stones, as long as they're, untreated, unheated, quality stones, they can really change your dreams at night. They change mine. When I wear certain types of stones, I go into a different kind of realm. So one stone can cause, irritation and kind of like mess with your dreams and give you kind of nightmares. if it's near you or by you. And another stone can bring you a lot of visions, a lot of really beneficial things. And other stones, they'll just kind of like change your dreams, change the frequency of your dreams. And again, that's a very, very kind of personal thing that some people are aware of. Some people don't even remember their dreams. But for the ones who understand what I'm talking about, get yourself a Magatama. But make sure you get it from Japan or Korea. Don't get a reproduction. Because they're useless. And make sure the stone is real, not treated, not heated, and kind of maybe enjoy it, find the value in it. Find the value in the honor of having something like this that represents, centuries of respect, centuries of kind of value and honor, and myth which turns into reality in a way, and something so sacred and imperial and protective as this. So when you look through jewelry items, it's very hard to find something that has this kind of exceptional value. A lot of things are just made to sell, and that's where culture doesn't really matter, because if you're going to anywhere and it's you're looking at something just made for sale purposes and it has no value intrinsically, spiritually, or etc., I don't care about it, so it's not like, it's from this place, so I'm gonna get it. It's not like that. This one has a lot, and I could feel it, it's a very deep feeling. So instead of me kind of babbling on, I'll just tell you to take a look at it yourselves and enjoy the beauty and the power, the elegance of the Magatama.